بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. Inshallah, we will start the workshop of zakat. Zakat is a very important principle of Islam. It was prescribed, it was made obligatory on the 8th year of Hijrah. And Prophet ﷺ, prior to that, it was an act of giving charity in general, was something that was there in the previous ummah. And inshallah, we will talk about, we'll get straight to the discussions of the questions and answers that are mostly asked regarding zakatul mal. Before we start, I'm just going to give a quick framework as to what is zakatul mal. It's one of the pillars, obligation of Islam. Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith, "Bunya al-Islamu ala khamsin, and shahadatu billah, wa iqam as-salati wa ita az-zakah, wa sawm Ramadan, wa hajj al-bayta man istata'a ilayhi sabila." So giving zakat is an essential part of our deen. We know that historically, after the demise of the Prophet ﷺ, from the Khulafa Rashidin, Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu actually, sent out a group of Muslims to fight against those who were not giving, who were not discharging zakat. And Sahaba at the time unanimously agreed that this is how important it is, the important matter of zakat. When we see the wa'id and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ regarding the person who does not discharge their wealth of zakat because it's a right and the haqq of the poor, then for that person, that wealth that was supposed to be given to someone, which is zakat, that will become serpent in the grave for that person. It will be a means of adhab right from the grave, not even until Yawm al-Qiyamah. So there's a lot of importance given, and of course we have to take it very, very seriously. So what is zakat? People get confused, and it's so sad that people in their mid-ages, old ages, they still think that what they're giving as sadaqah to the masjid or to after end of Ramadan, which is zakatul fitr, they think that is zakat. Zakatul mal is a completely different concept, and more important than zakatul fitr, more important than sadaqah and lillah and any other charity that you're giving. It's fard, it's obligated, you'll be held accountable. Everything else is nafila. It is recommended and highly recommended depending on different ulama. So zakatul mal, when a person has a certain amount of money in their savings and that stays with them for the complete lunar year, for one full year, hawl, and it does not decrease the nisab. Nisab is the bare minimum. Then that person in Islam qualifies as a person who's rich, right? That means they have to take out 2.5% of that and give it out to the mustahiqeen. إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran the 8 categories of people who can receive that wealth. So during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, gold was, there was dinar or dirham, gold coins or silver coins. And they were almost the same. So therefore, Prophet ﷺ stipulated a nisab for gold and silver. In our times, what is more expensive, gold or silver? Gold. Things have changed. So we will talk about what is the nisab. The nisab is, for the gold, the nisab is where a person who possesses 87.5 grams of gold. 87.5 grams of gold. And the silver nisab is different. Silver nisab can be something which is much higher. You need to have, much more worth of silver. So if you just take the gold nisab, then what we have to see is if a person have that much gold or worth of money, which is that much. Now every day the gold prices changes. Today's gold price per gram is $63. $63. So if you take 87.5 times 63, so $5,500 is your nisab. So last year, let's say today is the 11th of Ramadan. Last year, lunar calendar. Last year, if I hit that threshold, right? If I have $6,000 in my savings, and then the time started. So now from there, if it increases to 10,000 to 12,000, that's fine. Till now, at this point, a year later, where are you at? What is your savings? Now, if that number somewhere in the middle, if that number drops, you had to make big payments and you made all the payments and you went down to $2,000. So it resets. You don't have nisab at this point. You don't have the bare minimum. You have to wait for the whole year to, again, you have to have enough savings that till you hit the nisab. Again, the way to find out your nisab, subhanAllah, these days almost everyone has that much amount. It's very, I mean, if person, unless they have a huge debt and they are really, they don't have any money. But majority people, you know, if the person, husband, wife are working, they have a house, then more than likely they have about that much amount. The way to calculate our nisab, very simple, is 87.5 grams. If you just go Google gold rate and what is the gold price with grams, it will tell you today is 63.5. You multiply that, you will know your savings. You will know that you will have that much gold. And then that's how it starts. There are other much more details, and inshallah we have decided not to go in too many details for the nisab of cattle, for example, the nisab of ghanam, sheep, the ushur and khiraj, the zakat of agriculture. Right, the books are written on it, but in reality, not even 1% of Muslims have that. At least in our area in America, they don't have that. If someone has a huge agriculture field, inshallah, then come sit down. I don't think we'll discuss that because at least I don't know all the masail. It's ushur, but of course, depending on what kind of vegetation you have and what kind of produce that you're producing, you still have to give zakat on that. But we'll focus mainly on mal, on our wealth. Right? People have their gold or people have their cash, and we'll go in more details because the finances have changed. Now we have stocks, we have 401k, we have other options. So we'll touch on that, inshallah. So the way how we will discuss is remember, the nisab is $5,512. If you have more than that, we'll speak on this question, inshallah. Dr. Rayed, then I will address some of the questions that came to us. Once we are done with these questions, then if the folks have any other questions other than this, or if you need any more clarification in the zakat matters, inshallah, we can address that. You want to add something?
No, that's fine.
Bismillah. So the first question, as I already mentioned, what is the current nisab of gold? Nisab of gold, this was last year, but right now, with my calculation, is 5,512. So if you possess that amount or more from last year, be ready, you have to calculate your zakat in your savings. If someone said, yeah, my car is that much worth, it doesn't matter. Savings, your cash on hand or gold in hand. And we'll come about difference of opinion of the gold. The nisab of silver is much less because silver value is not that much right now. It's 612 grams, but right now 612 grams of gold is about $500 or a little bit less than 500. If that's a criteria, everyone needs to take out. So obviously we go, majority of the ulama go with the gold nisab. And so we'll just go on the questions, inshallah, starting. Jewelry. Is gold halal on men? No. Right? Inshallah, in Jannah, men can wear gold. Prophet said in one hadith in Jannah. But in dunya, it's haram actually, it's prohibited. So even we need to be mindful of that. Women have gold. Sheikh Rayed, you wanted to address the Shafi point of view regarding Shafi and Maliki point of view on the gold jewelry and zakat on that.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه من اهتدى بهدى أما بعد. So the bottom line in this matter, that anything that is for use, مستعمل, يعني you use it in your daily life, there's no zakat on it. So for example, even if you own like a very luxurious car, for example, right, that is worth $50,000 or $100,000, right? because this is something that you use in your daily life. There is no zakah on it. Similarly, when it comes to golden and silver jewelry owned by women, if it is owned to be used, right? Like you use your car, you use your house, you use your equipment, if you are a handyman, for example, right? Although it might be very valuable, if you cash it or if you sell it, you might get like a large amount of money. But because this is for use, you do not have to pay zakah on it according to Madhab al-Imam al-Shafi'i radiyallahu anhu, and the dalil is the hadith of Jabir radiyallahu anhu, laysa fil huliyyi zakah, that there is no zakah on women's jewelry that is for her use. Now, if the jewelry is saved for investment, right, that is a different story, right? So we should differentiate between jewelry that is for use, right? So the women use it regularly, or jewelry that is for investment. It's being saved to be invested. Then it goes back to the original ruling that it has to be paid, zakah has to be paid on it, and you estimate the value of that jewelry. And basically, if you have it for a hawl, for a whole lunar year, and if the value of it exceeds the nisab, and if it was there to be invested, not to be used, then you pay the 2.5% zakah on it. Wallahu alam.
And the Hanafi school point, the Hanafi school's opinion is that anfa' al-fuqara, what is beneficial for the poor, and then so even if the women use it for their use, because it specifically mentioned gold, the nisab is for the gold, so they would have to take zakat. They have to calculate zakat to it. And the way to do that is, and this is something that many sisters ask, like, how do I give zakat? So the best and very simple way of whether if you're using or not, if you have gold, sometimes people have the bricks. They like to keep it for long-term investment or any other form of gold. Anytime when we are purchasing gold, just understand the weight of gold. And if you go to a jeweler, they will tell you in this, the stone and the thread and everything minus that, the actual gold is maybe 20 grams or 50 grams, depending on what you have. Just keep that number in mind. If you're adding more gold, meaning if you're buying more gold or more jewelry from the Hanafi school of point, then just add that, keep that weight in mind. And whenever you are calculating your zakat, get that dollar amount for per gram, multiply that. And that's how you will give your zakat out. Now, some people may have gold, silver, cash, everything. Yes, consolidate all of that, get the value of gold, get the value of silver, get the value of cash, everything combined. And then let's say if that amount comes out to be, for example, $10,000. So that is your nisab. That is your nisab now. From that 10,000, your zakatable amount, your money is 2.5%, that's $250. So anytime, the best way to use the calculator, people are asking if there's any questions online. Can you activate that? The best way to do that is whatever the amount, 10,000, 15,000, 18,720, whatever your cash value of gold, cash, everything is, you multiply that by 0.025. That's 2.5%. Multiply by 0.025. Just remember that and you will get that amount. The amount you get, in the example that I gave in $10,000, that $250, we have to understand that this money is not mine. That should be our mindset. This money is the haqq and the right of the fuqara and the masakeen and wabn sabil and gharimin and wa'amilina alayha and mu'allafat al-qulub, the categories that are mentioned. So we have to understand that this is the amana, trust. That's why it's so important. Allah is saying this is the haqq of somebody else, and if you take it, then you will get punished for that. It's haram for you to keep it. And it's haram for you to find loopholes to just keep it. SubhanAllah, I mean, if I have $10,000 in my savings, 250, if I'm having problem with giving out 250, is really something wrong with me. SubhanAllah, it's a gift. And usually it's not the small amount that people have an issue with. It's when people have savings of not just tens and thousands and millions of dollars of savings, then their zakat amount comes in thousands. So they feel like, because this is the mindset of some people of all investment now. How can I give $3,000 in zakat? That's a lot of money. Brother, that's not your money. That's the mindset we need to get in. If not, especially the problem that happened, and this is such a sad condition, the rich people are the one who try to find loopholes to not to give zakat. And it's very, very sad. SubhanAllah, Allah give you so much money and you are taking away the right that Allah put upon us for the poor people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the ummah the right understanding of our deen. Am I responsible for paying zakat on gold jewelry for my wife? Again, this is a Hanafi position I'll mention. If, unfortunately, many of our brothers, they get stuck with it. Because, so if the wife has jewelry and then she's not working, she has no money, she's completely dependent on the husband. It's important that if you're keeping that much gold, you should also sell and have some money, and the best way is you take out your own zakat money from that gold. But especially Indian Pakistani women, they don't want to sell their jewelry. They could be in the most difficult situation, they don't want to. They have so much attachment because one of the reasons is coming on from generation after generation, right? So yes, because you're living together as a husband and wife in the same household at times at the same bank balance, it is acceptable if the husband takes out the money and gives it as zakat, but it's preferable that women should have money. Another way is you just give that money to, hadiya, give some money to your wife, and then she could take out zakat from there. But she has to include that in it, inshallah. We already mentioned the zakat of, address the white gold. No? Go ahead. Sometimes what happens in gold, it's makhlut. It's added on with other materials, right? White gold or anything else. So it's not 24 karat pure gold. Now, pure gold in the jewelry and any other form, it's difficult for them to make it in different shapes. So what they do, they add something else to it, right? 22, 20 karat, and 18 karat means that they added quite a few things to it, right? So when you are calculating, and if you go to, again, the jeweler, he will tell you that there's 18%. So you got to minus that. You have to calculate that, for example, if you have 10 grams of gold, then you can, take out the ratio that it was, if you make 18, let's say if you have 24 grams of gold, but that's 18 karat gold, then you have to take out 18%, calculate 18 grams of gold. That's why you have to just make sure you take out the ghaban, the extra added materials that is in that gold. So that's something that, for example, white gold is 18 grams, 18 karat. White gold is 18 karat. They add some other materials to it. It is still gold, but you don't have to pay the 24 karat price to it. So again, calculating, and the jeweler will tell you what it is, inshallah.
And it's worthwhile mentioning that other like precious stones, they are not zakatable.
That was the next question. Is there zakat on precious metals or stones? You could keep answering. I'll just go to that.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that zakah is paid on gold, pure silver. Any other gems or pearls or like precious stones, even diamond, the wife might have, or we might have, like, diamond or whatever.
Diamond ring. Very expensive.
But you do not have to pay zakah on that.
Dr. Ed, is there zakat on money saved for Hajj?
Yes, any savings that you have, whatever the intention behind
College
that
tuition.
saving, college tuition,
Children's
Hajj,
wedding.
Children wedding, etc. Any savings that you have, if it meets the criterion that we just explained, if the money exceeds the nisab, and if you own it for a full lunar year in your savings, no matter what your intention behind these savings, what's the purpose, this is still zakatable, meaning that you have to pay the zakah on it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always, of course, as we mentioned in the very beginning, zakah means growth and means purity. So when the zakah is paid on the savings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and add more blessings, and the the wealth, is purified by the zakah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless it so that it will grow, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you rizq from wherever you do not expect it to come from.
Giving zakat, we should think of it as a blessing.
Yes.
Not as a difficulty or a tax. Like sometimes during tax returns, we're like, oh, great, I have to pay taxes. By the way, that brings another question. Someone actually asked me recently. So let's say if a person have to pay their income tax, or in January, February, they get their W-2s and they have to file their taxes. The question was, the tax money that you're giving to the government, can I understand and think that as my zakat money? Astaghfirullah. So go ahead if you want to explain. Obviously, the answer is no, but why?
So yeah, tax money that you give back to the government is not obviously cannot be counted as zakah money, right? So zakah money has to go, to the 8 recipients, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specified in the Quran in Surah At-Tawbah. So tax money that you give, that you report and pay is not
or fines
or fines or anything like that. You cannot deduct it or cannot take it out of your zakah sum. It does not count. No.
Right. Again, as Dr. Raid mentioned earlier, because zakat is blessing, and you should be happy, and it's purified. It put more barakah in leftover wealth. Whereas taxes and fines that you're paying, you find your ways to come out of that or lessen that, whatever ways that are available. So of course not. Next question, is there zakat on money borrowed from others?
So if you borrow money from others and that money is in your ownership, again, this is the money that you have, right? You borrowed it to do something and you did not expend it, right? So it remains in your ownership for the full year. You have to pay zakah for it. And some people say that, some of the fuqaha say that the zakah, as a matter of fact, is on the person who gave the debt, right? And so if I owe Brother Saad, for example, $1,000 that I borrowed from him, right? Now, there are so many details in this subject, but is this money being owned by Brother Saad while I have it, right? Mm-hmm. And is he responsible for paying that zakah or not? Madhab al-Shafi'i, radiyallahu anh, is once I get the money back, right? So once Brother Saad gets the money back from me, right? There are two opinions in that even. So if suppose that the money, that I borrowed the money and I had it for 5 years, for example, there is an opinion that once he get it back, he has to pay zakah on it for every year, mm-hmm. right? And there is another opinion that once he gets it back, right, and he owns it for a whole hawl, he has to pay zakah for it only one time, right? So I think this is the more
complex.
Yeah, So the bottom line is, the debt that you have, that you loan to someone else, once you get it back, right? As long as it's in his possession, you do not pay the zakah on it. Once you get it back from him, right? Then you have to think about you either accept one of the two opinions. Either you pay the zakah for every full lunar year that he had the money, or you pay the zakah only once. And these are two opinions that are there and they are valid.
The Hanafi point on money that you borrowed somebody, right? If Brother Sajid, I gave him $10,000, but there's stipulated time agreement and a strong debt, meaning I know him, I know his credentials, and I'm expecting this money. There's a time required, and I know that more than likely he will give it back to me. So at that point, you have to include that in your zakat, because you know that that's the money that I can take it from him anytime. It's something. But if I gave it to somebody who are in very desperate need, but there's very weak chances of me even getting it back, so then the Hanafi school says then don't include it, because you're not going to get a chance. The most of the criteria of the Hanafi school of thought is anfa' lil fuqara, what is beneficial for the fuqara. So they say in this concept of borrowing money, I was able to borrow money to Brother Sajid only because I have enough money. So I'm sahibul, I have quite a few money, and if I'm giving $10,000 to someone, that means I got much more. I'm not going to give him, if I only have 11,000, I'm not going to give you 10,000, right? That means I have a lot of money, so I'm giving you 10,000. That means I have enough that I should be able to calculate. Now, if you know that he is not able to give you back, then that's when you could deduct that from your savings. So that's the opinion that they categorize that as strong debt and a weak debt. Like, if there's strong chances that you know that you will get back within the time that you are calculating, then you would do that.
Yeah, so Madhab al-Shafi'i does not differentiate between, as long as you do not have the money in your possession, you are not, obligated to give the zakat. Once you have it back, then that's a different story.
And this is the criteria on the other questions. MashaAllah, there are quite a few questions coming online as well. MashaAllah, about 50 some people watching, so that's good. What I will do is we'll go through. We have about another few set of questions. We'll finish this, and some of the questions, sister, that you're asking online will be addressed here. Once we are done, and if there's any questions, then inshallah we'll take other questions, inshallah. Just want to address the point of 401k, any other loans, right, that we have. This is the same, very strong difference of opinion between the Shafi school of thought and the Hanafi school of thought. Strong debt and a weak debt. If you know that you will get back, then you have to include that, and then you have to include that within your savings and give zakat out, whereas the Shafi school of thought, there's no difference. It's a debt, so therefore you're not liable until you get it back. Once you get it back, then you, again, the anfa'al al-fuqara aspect is also there. Then you calculate, I got all that $10,000 back, but I had 3 years. So then you can calculate for each year, or I believe the strongest position is that you just do it one time, include that, and you move on, inshallah. Is there zakat on bonds? The treasury bills and the interest that comes on it and stuff like that. What is?
So bonds, as you know, it involves riba.
It's not Sharia compliant.
So it's not Sharia compliant. And yet the fuqaha from the mu'asirin, of course, the bonds, they did not used to have bonds and deal with bonds in the old times. From the mu'asirin, the contemporaries, they say even though that it has the the interest aspect, still they are zakatable. Right, so you have,
because it's your money.
Yeah,
you are putting your money in the bond.
Yeah.
So just because it's haram doesn't nullify the fact that you don't have to give zakat. Yes, there's interest component. Ask them to forgive and don't get anything back. But if you put $10,000 and the bond now price is whatever amount, your investment and even your growth, that is still haram, but yours.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you went in that process, but it's going to come to you, so you have to give zakat on that.
Yes.
And don't think, going back to what earlier we mentioned, don't think that by you giving zakat, it purifies that wealth.
Or even get the reward for it.
Yes.
Because in Allah tayyibun la yaqbalu illa tayyib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept and reward for except something that is good and tayyib. And it was earned from lawful resource.
Is there zakat on stocks, and how do you give zakat on stocks? Yes, again, similar to any other bonds, but stock, let me make it a point. Stock is where you are a partner, a sharik, you're buying some element of that company. Just like bonds, those which are Sharia compliant, mashallah, right now, many of the Muslim investors and finance, gurus, I should say, and ulama came up with, there's a list of stocks that are compliant for Muslims to invest in, which are called Sharia compliant stocks. Budweiser is the beer company. As Muslims, we cannot be part and parcel or partnership with that company. Therefore, buying stocks of that, even though it's very lucrative, we cannot buy that, right? Same thing, but if someone wants to buy Tesla, then you can. So Sharia compliant stocks, that's what we are talking about. Yes, if you have invested in those, then you're putting money in and the money is increasing. That's your net worth. That's when you're calculating your cash, your gold, check on your Robinhood, see what is your net worth. Stock market is low right now, whatever it is, put that money in, add that in, and you give zakat on that. Yeah, that's how you give zakat. No. So when you invested in the first, so let me repeat the question. His question is, do you look at your portfolio now or what you invested in the first place? Let me give you an example, then hopefully you'll understand. During COVID, let's say you invested $10,000 and it went up to $50,000. And that year, the next year, that's your net worth. And then you got to pay zakat on $50,000. But right now, it went down to $5,000. Even though your investment was 10, at right now, your portfolio, where it stands when you are doing your nisab, when you're calculating your cash and bank and your gold and your stocks together, what is it? Because that's a hawl, that's where it ended. Meaning if this is your Islamic date today, that 15th of Ramadan. Many people give zakat out in the month of Ramadan, right? It's good. Of course, the month of Ramadan is something everyone remembers. If not, you ask them in the middle of the year, what month is it? Oh, I have to open my app to see if it's Jumad al-Ula or Jumad al-Ukhra. We don't know. Ramadan, everyone knows. Number two, people do it in the month of Ramadan because more barakah, reward. So you have to see right now the time when you are doing your zakat, what is your net worth on your stocks.
So if you had 10,000 in hand and your stock before you said 5,000, so you got 15,000.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to combine.
You have to combine, but your portfolio, where it stands and today's market, after whatever fluctuation it happened.
You said like the beer company, because product is haram, so stock is haram. But Tesla is halal, because the product is halal.
So I am not a finance expert. All I'm going to say is I know Sharia Portfolio is one company, Amana Trust. There are ulama who are sitting on there along with their financial experts. I gave example of Tesla, but I'm pretty sure Tesla is in Sharia Portfolio and in Amana Trust and the HILL, Hilal or Halal. There's another stock that they have all the top stocks which are Islamic compliant. So they have approved it, right? Now, if you or anyone disagrees, then you have a right to disagree and not put it in there. But I was giving an example, as a very clear example, from a haram stock to a halal stock. And if one person does not find that suitable, and the reason I mentioned Tesla is because I also know that the ulama who are in the field have approved it. If someone disagrees, they have a right to disagree, and they don't have to invest in it. Again, I don't want to diverge from the tax from the zakat, inshallah. Is there zakat on business commodities? I'll give an example that Dr. Raid answered the question. Let's say I wanted to sell cars example. And I have my own car. I have two cars, van and my car, right? So my wife's car and my car. So that's we use for personal use. I rented out a lot and then borrowed money from whoever and bought 10 cars. 10 BMWs are sitting there. BMW is halal? BMWs are okay, right? So we have 10 BMWs in my lot. That's my commodity. I'm not using it. I may drive around to fill gas, but the sole purpose of those 10 BMWs, is to make money out of them. Dr. Raid, is that zakat and how do I calculate zakat on that?
Yeah, so urud al-tijara, or the commodities that are for trading commodities, at the end of the hawl, if you are a businessman, you own a grocery store, or you are a dealer, but you own cars, you are trading with cars, like selling and buying. There's a difference if the cars are for rental, that's a different story. If you are renting these cars, you pay on the income that you get from the rental. You do not pay on the value of the cars themselves.
Because you yourself are not owning it.
Yeah, because you are not. But if you are, these are for selling and buying, right? You want to sell them, to sell these cars. Then you have to, at the end of the hawl, you estimate the value of these commodities, and you pay the 2.5%, right? So urud al-tijara, or the trade commodities, are definitely zakat eligible or zakatable, assets.
Sure. I'm just texting the people on the group. The next question is, or the commodities, is there zakat on wholesale price or retail price when you have a investment or when you have a business? The answer is the retail price now, because that's what the money is going to come out, right? So that's where, again, some may have a different opinion on that. A share market value would be the right answer. Because you may want to sell the car. You have, let's say I bought the car for $15,000. I put on Craigslist or whichever on Facebook Marketplace for $20,000. But I may not get 20, I may get 17. So a most likely retail value, inshallah. The next question is there zakat on my personal belongings? Answer is no. On my, Dr. already answered this, I'm going to go fast. On the house furniture, no. Zakat on my house, no. Most expensive car, no. You don't have to, as long as you're driving on it. Is there zakat on my rental properties? Did you answer this?
So property that you are renting to others.
Yeah.
So yeah, you pay zakah on the income, basically. So if you have property that you are renting, right? You do not pay zakah on the property itself. You pay zakah on the income that the revenue.
And that is income. So I mean, basically you're getting income. So
So if you have rental property, let's say you have 10 rental properties, and you owe money on them, you pay payments on it.
let me repeat the question. So let me repeat the question, inshallah, Dr. Wright can answer. The brother asked a question that, let's say, do you pay zakat on the rent or after the expenses that you have already invested in, right? So let's say you rent money, you get $10,000, but your expenses to maintain that property is $7,000. So his question is, do I pay zakat on $3,000, the minus of the expenses, or is it just the revenue that was generated from that rental? Is that correct?
Yes, and part of that is, if that's your living, I mean, that's your salary, that's what you want to call it. So that $3,000,
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, zakah is very simple, really, right? So you start your hawl, right? Suppose that you start today. You start counting the hawl, right? So suppose that today you have $6,000. Let's make it easy, $10,000, right? And at the end of the hawl, right? So you incur some expenses, you spend, right? Because you have to take care of your family, pay your rental, pay your whatever, right? At the end of the hawl, if that money is 3,000, you are under the nisab, no zakah. You do not have to pay zakah for anything. If at the end of the hawl, the $10,000 that you have in your savings or became like $12,000, then you pay zakah on the 12, right? So it's very simple. The calculation is very simple. The expenses that you have for your
Personal.
As a person or for these are not zakatable because these are money that you have already spent. It is money that you have used, right? Zakah applies to the money, the excess money that is beyond the money that you use.
Jazakumullah. Next question quickly is, do I pay zakat if I have debts? And so for example, if someone says, yeah, my income and my salary, as Brother Tariq mentioned, my own expenses I'm going to hypothetical example, then I'll answer this, is after expenses and everything, my savings comes out to be $10,000, but expenses is my monthly mortgage. But for the house, I have $300,000 left. So therefore, I mean, if I manage that, even my $10,000, I'm not going to give zakat. I'm not going to give zakat, not just now, for the rest of my life. So it's a very unfortunate system that we are in. So we're not talking about the whole system right now. We're talking about the masala of giving zakat. The contemporary ulama in the United States, in North America, and European countries, and throughout the world right now, they looked at this masala, again, in the light of what is beneficial for the poor people. If people in America right now go with I have a house and car payments and the money that I owe the bank, whatever, Islamic bank or conventional bank, they're not going into that, then no one will give zakat. Everyone has their debt is huge. So so few opinions. One of the opinion is you have to calculate your mortgage for the year, right? Let's say whatever amount I'm paying every month, but my savings comes out to be $20,000 right now from my income, from my rent, from my gold, from my stocks, everything. But every month my mortgage comes out to be $10,000. So from for that 1 year, it's 10,000, which is pretty less, but let's say for the example. So you minus that 1 year mortgage, not that whole $300,000. If you do $300,000, then no one's going to give zakat. And there are people in our community who are in need of that money. And it's their right. And if people are going to use that loophole, by the way, 99.999% of ulama and scholars of this opinion. But again, if you go Mufti Google, you might give you that opinion, oh, someone's saying this. Don't fall into those loopholes. Let people, subhanAllah, you have a big house, you have so many cars, you have savings of $20,000, $30,000, then no, I don't have to give anything because I have a house that I have to pay. And you're just living. That's where the challenges and problems, when Dr. Wright mentioned earlier, when you give zakat money, it purifies and also protects you from calamities. When people go through these loopholes, that's where all the calamities and problems are coming. So please keep that in mind. Yes, sir.
So let's say I have $5,000 which I need to give in as a zakat, and I support a family back home. Do I give them $5,000 in the lump sum? Because I know if I give them lump sum, they're going to spend it not wisely. Can I do it 12 installments? I send them every month, $500, $600, whatever it is.
Yeah. So, there's a concept of making someone wali, someone in charge of, dispensing, right? If you want, I don't know if you yourself can be the wali of, because the concept of zakat, the rule of thumb is tamlik. You have to make that person owner of that wealth because it's not your wealth. Now, if we are saying, oh, I'm going to micromanage that person, how he or she is going to use the money, where and when, then again, this was never your money to begin with. I completely understand that sometimes I also feel that, sometimes the person might misuse it, they might just spend it. Yes, there should be ways to address that, but the rule, the bottom, the denominator, the common rule is you have to make that person in charge and they should be able to answer it, and they should be able to do it. Now, there is a concept knowing in that situation, if you know that someone can be their owner, they can take on their behalf, provided they give them permission, right? A wali. Then they will be able to spend them tadrijan, gradually or as needed and stuff like that. But the main rule is you have to make that person ownership. But if you, as a person who's taking out the zakat, you say, I will be the owner, how I'm going to spend that money, when and how, then becomes problematic.
Yes, so zakah cannot be paid in installments, right? So once the zakah time arrives, right, you cannot delay it, right? You can pay in advance if you want. Yes.
I think I'm going to have $5,000 after the lunar year, and I start sending that money, $500 each month to this person. The time, the end of the lunar year.
During the hawl you can, meaning that in ta'deel al-zakah, I don't know if there's a question about that. Like paying zakah, estimating zakah, and paying it in advance, yes, you can.
Yes, there is.
Ta'deel. But you cannot delay it after it becomes obligatory. When the hawl enters, and you did not pay it yet, you cannot pay it in installments because this is delaying the zakah. You can pay it ahead of time during the hawl, make an estimate, and during the hawl, before it becomes actually obligatory, you can pay it in installments. But I want to mention here something that is very important. The question about tamlik that Sheikh Saad talked about, which is that fuqaha agree on, tamlik means, that you give the zakat to the person because he knows his priorities better than you do, right? So you cannot put a condition on him that I'm going to give you this zakah on the condition that you spend it on so and so, or on the, you cannot do that.
Buy a house or
Buy a house, or you cannot, because he knows his priorities. Now, if you know, and this is part of the homework that you do as someone who gives zakah, if you know that a person, if you did your own investigation, and you should do that this person is not responsible, right? That whatever, if you give him the zakah, he's going to squander that money, on something that is not, aligned with the necessities or the needs of his family. Then next time you don't give him, you give someone else who is more actually eligible than he is. But, yeah.
The problem is he will spend it investing somewhere in business or something, and then his kids suffer the rest of the.
Then he's not eligible. If this is the case, we have to be very careful about that, because this person is not responsible, right? So we have to do our homework, right? Or, for example, in the Rahma school, right? Like Tullab al-Ilm, so if someone is seeking knowledge and he needs zakat to support him, the fuqaha said he has to give you a permission, a written permission, that yes, you can pay zakat for me to cover my tuition. Yeah. But it has to be, you have to obtain a permission from him, to do that, right? You cannot put that as a condition on him.
You cannot jabaran, you cannot force a person to use, and especially the one who's giving.
Yeah.
That's why in your example that I said that especially if you're sending it to Pakistan, you could appoint a person which the recipient agrees to be their wali, to their spender or distributor. Then you say, okay, then they can, and this is how, the people, because there are cases that a person is not, well versed on finances, you're giving a big amount and so on and so forth. In the Hanafi school of thought, it's also actually, it's not like that you give such a big amount to a person in zakat. Try to disperse and try to see where you give them so much amount that now they have to take zakat out, right? The reason is you should also look for people who are in need. Unless if there's no one and this person actually has a need of $20,000 and they have to make a big, that's an exception, that's not. But in general, try to also disperse your zakat and figure out who is going, inshallah. And we're going to go fast. I skip something. Do I pay zakat on money owed to me for work I did for someone? Yes. Whenever they're going to give you the money, we have to give. For sisters, is there zakat on unreceived mahar? Before I answer, brothers, if you have not given your zakat, your mahar to your wife, please do it. That's your own debt that you have to fulfill ASAP. But for sisters, no, they don't have to give zakat because they don't have milkiyat of that money yet. That's in the Hanafi school of thought, that's comes in as a weak loan debt. So therefore, once the sisters get the money, they have to let's say first night of marriage, the husband gave $10,000 mahar, mashallah, lucky wife, $10,000 mahar. Then a year later, whatever she used, if she used nothing, then she have to give zakat. If she used everything, no zakat. If she used partially, then whatever is remaining, she add that to it. Is there zakat on inheritance not received? Inheritance not received yet. It's again not in your milkiyat. They are calculating. Again, very wrong concept. The person, someone dies, of course there is grief and whatever, but as soon as we can, we should calculate the inheritance and distribute it as well. So if not, many problems will come out of that. Is there zakat on real estate purchase for resale? Yes, we talked about that with the example of the car. Can I pay zakat in advance? Dr. Wright addressed that. Yes, you can pay zakat in advance, but not mu'akhar. not delayed. If it's end right now, think of it as a huge responsibility that you have to take it off your shoulder. Can I give zakat to my aunts and uncles, both from mom's side and dad's side? Yes. So to remember, zakat can be given to your siblings. Think of that right and left, and your aunt and uncles. But anything from top to bottom, meaning your father, your grandfather, you cannot, and your children and your grandchildren, you cannot. So top to bottom, you cannot, but right and left, meaning your siblings and your aunts and uncles, provided they are poor. Provided that they are poor and they're in need, you can give zakat to your siblings, provided they are in the category, do I pay zakat on belongings to my children? There's a difference of opinion on this. If my child, I opened a bank account for him, and people do that actually. Some people buy a gold brick and say, this is my son's. He's only, how old are you? 4 years old. Or someone said $10,000 in his account. I write down Musa Bik. So the Hanafi school of point is the child he or she needs to be baligh, needs to be adult in order for them to give zakat. But again, it doesn't mean that, so technically that's my money. So someone has to give zakat, father's going to give the zakat. That's what the understanding is. And I think,
Even if it's the college fund?
yes. College fund, if it's a child, again, baligh, college fund, if the child is old enough, then you got to tell him, you are 15, 18 years old, you're baligh, there's the money that I have put in your account, you have to now take out zakat from there and give it out. If you're making him individual, if you're still collecting within your own funds, then you add that within all your total, and then you give zakat. So the Hanafi school of point is, if there is a child, not baligh, then they don't give zakat. But if the father has a possession on it, someone has a possession, aunt, uncle, trust, then you have to give zakat. But child would not give zakat.
So madhab Imam Shafi'i radiyallahu anh is that you have to give zakah. So if a kid inherits money and he's below the age of responsibility or maturity, this money is still zakatable, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, if someone is a guardian of an underage person who inherited money, then he should seek ways of generating revenue on that money, and you do not leave it so that the zakah will consume it. Mm-hmm. So the hadith is clear from the Prophet ﷺ that the zakah is obligatory on that money, and in order for that money not to be consumed by the zakah, you should actually invest it, and we should seek methods, ways of making revenue for that money so that it remains healthy. And this is a very important aspect in the economic system in Islam. Hoarding is a no thing to do. In Islam encourages assets to be always liquidated, always in the market, right? In order to keep the economic system healthy. Hoarding, right, and saving and not, this hurts the economic system at large. And because of that, Islam actually encourages people to always invest and to always be there in the market in order to keep the system healthy.
Last two questions. After that, if there's any questions here, and people online can also ask, mashallah. Zakatul Fitr, it's different. I briefly mentioned that. That's for tazkiyah and purifying our fast. Right? That's supposed to be given towards the end, but you don't have to wait till the last day or the Yawm al-Eid. Rather, you could give it out early. Zakat al-Fitr, it's about $8 to $10, $10 to be safe, that you give out. Again, the mustahiqeen and the recipients of Zakat al-Fitr is same as Zakat al-Mal. But the ruling in the Hanafi school of thought, I'm not sure, I'll wait to Dr. Wright to address it on the Shafi school of thought, is the Hanafi school of thought, Zakat al-Mal, when your person has nisab, it's fard. Not giving, it's a major sin, min al-kabair. Whereas Zakat al-Fitr, it is, again, within the Hanafi school of thought, it is sunnah mu'akkada, stressed upon sunnah, or wajib, which Hanafis have that concept of wajib, which is highly, highly recommended, but not fard. So therefore, you should give it. But zakatul mal, there is no question about that. Is it the same?
Yeah, so for Madhab Imam Shafi'i, Zakat al-Fitr is obligatory, and Imam Shafi'i do not differentiate between fard and wajib.
Right, but for zakatul fitr, what's the rule?
Faridah.
Oh, farida is
Faridah.
okay. So it is very important, inshallah. Next is, how much is zakatul fitr? $10. Let me look at these questions. What's a zakat on Roth IRA account? What is zakat on 401k and regular IRA? So Roth IRA, for those who do not know, you put in, I think the minimum is 6,500 that you can put in every year, and then they invest. There is no penalty until you take it out at the age of 65. 65 or 60? Oh, increased? Life expectancy. So 67, whatever that time is, you don't take out until then. And then you could take out wholesome however you want. There is no penalty. And wherever that money gets invested, that's the growth. If there's a growth in it, then you get the money, right? For example, if a person for 10 years is spending 6,500, that good amount of money, $65,000 they invested, plus if that investment, wherever that got invested, Tesla or not, right? Wherever, I'm gonna get the brother. It became $100,000. So what do you do on that? But right now, 10 years, right? Let's say 55 years old. I cannot take that money out. It's sort of sealed, Roth IRA, and the way they benefit is they know that there's a consistent amount of money, they invest however they want, but they give you back. But if the market was good, then you get much more in return, right? There's no fees, there's no penalties. The question is, and this time, what do I do with my Roth IRA? I already have $65,000 invested. Let's say even the growth happened of, let's say the numbers increase to $70,000, $80,000. I'll explain two opinions that I usually share, and I'll let Dr. Wright address if there's any other opinion. I think he already mentioned that with regards to the debt. It's a very similar concept, which is if I were to take out the money right now, this is the third opinion. If I were to take the money out right now, then, so three opinions. If I were to take out the money right now, and you could ask the financial investors there, I just want my Roth IRA. You're gonna break the whole process, no problem. There's this penalty, this is fee, and then from that, your current index was, let's say, $80,000. If you were to take out right now, then you will get $50,000. Hypothetically, I said, okay, I don't want it right now, but now $50,000, I'm gonna pay zakat every year. So that is first opinion. Second opinion is that you wait till you're 65, whenever you are taking out without any penalty. And now it's $100,000. It grew up. So when you take that whole lump sum money, again, the two options that Dr. Rayad mentioned, which is you pay zakat on that lump sum money one time, you're done, or you go back now. You got this much money. You go back that how many years it stayed with me. So every year, then you pay zakat on that. That's very, it's detailed work. But this is the opinion that myself and those scholars that I follow, the best opinion, at least according to me, is in our contemporary issue, is you figure out whether if it's Roth IRA or 401k, similar concept. If you were to consult with the financial advisor and say, if I were to take out this money today, after the fees and the penalty, what is my net worth today? And they will give you that number, and then you just add that to your total, and then you move on. But what happens, the only issue is, it all depends on a person's circumstances and how much money they have. If they have no savings with them, if they have no cash money in your bank account, but everything is invested, you have $100,000 invested, and then the zakat is $2,500. If you were to take out right now with the penalties, it's $100,000 they can give you. But you have nothing to give with your zakat because that's just hypothetical. So that's where the issue comes in with the first opinion. But if people have money, then they should be able to calculate what they can take out and give zakat. But the second opinion, quite a few people follow of the Roth IRA and 401k is you just wait And then once you take out, you give lump sum, or then you do previous years of zakat.
Yeah, so the second opinion is the one that I personally adopt, which is the fuqaha, for zakatable assets, they require unconditional ownership. For any zakatable asset, they require for it unconditional, what we call al-mulkiyya tamma, unconditional ownership, which means that if you have to pay something in order to get your money, to pay a fine or a fee, it means that your ownership of that money is conditional and it's not complete. The only time that this ownership becomes complete is when you hit that age, right? For example, for 401k, the age of retirement, 65. Then at that point in time, you have complete ownership of that money, no conditions attached, etc. Then at this point in time, you wait, so you have the money in your ownership and you wait for 1 year, hawl. Once you have the unconditional ownership given to you, you wait for a hawl, and you pay the zakat as a lump sum for the whole thing that you accumulated now.
So you're saying not on that point, when you get the money, draw the money. You wait for a year, you draw the money today, you wait for until next month.
Yes.
And then whatever you left with.
Yes, because the money has to remain with you in your ownership for a hawl, right?
That's the position Dr. was saying. The other position is that once you get it, it's just that it was yours, because it was not somebody else's, it was your money. It's just that you didn't have full ownership. You have partial, it was assigned to you but not given to you. Moment you get it, then it all becomes, then the other opinion is that you give it out, discharge right away, and then you do that. And what I have seen in many cases is it really depends on a personal situation, because if a person have no money with them, then the first opinion actually becomes very difficult for them, because they have no cash to give zakat out. Their money isn't, they don't have full control. It's not completely in their hand. So, that's something to consider. But if someone has money, and of course there will be something beneficial every year, like you are in your 20s, you have mashallah money there, and you're also making a lot of money, so you're going to wait till 65 to make that benefit to the poor. If you're in the position, might as well take it out right now. So that's what the anfa'al al-fuqara concept comes in. There's a question here. I think we already addressed this, but I'll read the question anywhere. What's the zakat on regular brokerage accounts? For example, should I look at the portfolio value of 1 year ago or compare it to today's value? That was your question. So today's value, whatever your stock market, your investment value is, portfolio value, then you give that. Sister had a question about the zakat on jewelry. We included that. The Shafi school of thought and Maliki school of thought and Hanbali school of thought, all three of them say the jewelry which is musta'mal, which is in use, there's no zakat on that, just like you're using your luxury car. Whereas the Hanafi school of thought strongly emphasize that you still have to calculate zakat on jewelry. Another question is to clarify of when the zakat is due. If I have money saved up for a year, do I have to pay all the zakat on that day, or I can pay portion over time?
Once the zakat is due, it's due. You cannot delay it. You cannot wait and pay it in installments. Once the time for paying the zakat arrives, it's like salah. Salat al-Maghrib, you pray at salah waqt al-Maghrib. You cannot pray 1 rak'ah and then half an hour pray another rak'ah.
Or next day.
Once the time arrives for the zakah, you have to pay it completely. No, month of Ramadan, people...
Same thing, that's what he answered.
Yeah.
Once is obligated, and the zakatable amount is, let's say, in $10,000 today. From last year till now, my savings, now it's $10,000. Last year I gave zakat today. Today I have $10,000. So that $250 that I have, it needs to be distributed. You cannot say, I'll give some now and some next month and the month after that. So now, one thing you could do is, so before your zakat date come in, so practical solution. Okay, ready for the practical solution? I know that on 15th of Ramadan, I am going to take out my zakat. that's when I take out my zakat. So it gives me first few days of Ramadan to focus on other things. Now, my wife and I, we know where we're gonna give. So do your homework before your day comes in. Here and there, that person there, ready. So now on that day, I'll do my calculation for that day, the gold price. Khalas, this is my calculation, multiply by 0.025, I got this much amount. I have 4 places that I want to give my zakat. This much money came out, I got $400, $100 each, khalas. That's what you have to do. If you're going to wait, okay, I got 2,500, I mean, you have $100 savings. You have 2,500, what do I do now? Okay, I'm going to give this person some money today, next person, next week, next month. You're going to hold that zakat money. You cannot.
No, but if I pay in advance in the last 12 months.
In advance, yes, you could do that. But delayed, no, you cannot. That's a question, mashallah. Good. So the person who asked that question, I hope it answers you that you could pay in portion over time prior to knowing. But of course, when it's mu'akhar, meaning in advance you're paying, you're also estimating. If your number increases, you have to then add that towards the end of the year and then pay more. If it's less, khalas, you paid extra. You know, that's good. Yeah. So that's why a couple months. So Brother Safi is asking, so if you paid extra, you get back? No, you don't get back.
You get back from Allah.
Reward. You ask Allah to reward you more, inshallah. Few months ago, practical example was there, and we hear from the khutbah, Sheikh Yasin, myself, Dr. Everyone, we announced it. Hassan, we stressed people that listen, subhanAllah, the Turkey and Syria earthquake happened. And it was one of the biggest disasters in that land of the century. Subhanallah. Rich people became poor within seconds. So now we were encouraging, and everywhere, every masjid pretty much everywhere on the world, people are encouraging, please take out your money. They need money right now. If people say, no, I'm going to hold till Ramadan, I'm going to hold till Ramadan. I mean, we should know our estimate, how much we have and how much we will have. And if you're 8,000, 9,000, just calculate $10,000, take out 250, khalas, give it out. Now in the month of Ramadan comes, mashallah, you got the bonus for another 5,000, add that, and then give more. And if something happened before month of Ramadan, big vacation or car, no money, khalas, bismillah. But that kind of mu'akhar is okay, that is advanced paying like that. But delaying it, no.
Yes. And something that is related to that sometimes is asked, do you pay the zakah locally or do you, pay it somewhere else if needed? Because sometimes, your locality, people are well off, the poverty is not that, but, there are other localities, that are more in need. Like a good example was just mentioned. For example, there's a disaster in a certain community, not necessarily the same country, but another country, right? Then definitely they get the priority in this matter.
The next question is, can I give zakat to different poor people? Yes, we answered that. Yes, you can. The next question is, some organizations holding zakat, and that's a big problem. It's a problem. Some masajid using that, relief organizations using that, and that's why the ulama, they recommend that if you know someone who is in need and zakat eligible, give yourself. Don't wait through an organization. But of course, we are, alhamdulillah, the Muslim Ummah have reached in its highest numbers, mashallah. And it should, inshallah, will increase more. Inni mukathirum bikumul umama yawmal qiyamah, kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet said that I want to see my ummah in big numbers, so let's do the work. Get married, brother. So, big number, big people. So it's difficult to know everyone and everywhere, right? So that's why we have organizations, masajid, who take zakat, and they are responsible to, and they should be giving it out as soon as it comes. As soon as it comes, there should be a quick revolving cycle. If you know of an organization that's holding it and doing something, then obviously you should try to avoid that, inshallah. That was the last question, I hope. It's almost 3 o'clock. We have more other programs. Yes? in the Hanafi school of thought, you don't have to tell them that this is zakat money. Is that the
Yeah,
same?
yeah.
Just the same. Because you also have to understand it's certain level of dignity as well, right? If you don't want to make recipient of zakat means you're poor. If a person, and Prophet ﷺ said, al-yadul ulya khairu min yadus sufla, right? Meaning, don't always present yourself that you're in need. SubhanAllah, there were people among the Sahaba, yuthiruna ala anfusihim walau kana bihim khasasa, that they would always cover, and they would not really show themselves they're always in need. They would cry to Allah, not in front of people. In that same breath, we should not make people feel bad that this is zakat I'm going to give you, or announce, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. We're living in such a bad world right now. People take selfie, here, I'm giving you zakat. Right? You have your YouTube channels like as if people are promoting. It's very, very sad. It's a very bad culture. It should be hidden quietly, and where you say, SubhanAllah, this is for you. Don't need to mention anything. Walk out. Now, if it's required, the example that Dr. Raid mentioned earlier, Talib al-Ilm or any institute, then they should know that this is coming. Then, for example, here also, if there's a recipient of the family who's in need, then we say this is the money from zakat that you are mindful that you are accepting this for this reason. Then there's technicality, but in general, you don't have to disclose that. And actually, it's even recommend not disclosing that the fact that you're giving zakat. Yeah, they will disclose it to the parents when it comes up. The question, very specific question.
Oh, I have to be careful with this example, though. If you give it to a madrasa or to an institution, so zakah money cannot be used to support an institution.
Yeah, so that's the next question.
Yeah.
So the question is very specific question. Ready? Can we give zakat to ISB fundraiser? Does everyone know when's the fundraiser? Next week. No. Because the fundraiser that we are having, and rightfully so, we should have the fundraiser, because the masjid and the organization this level of magnitude cannot function by itself. No one's giving us money. So we are doing fundraiser to take care of all the operations. We're not giving it to any recipient who is zakat eligible. Remember, that was the criteria. It has to be given to individual. So, to what Dr. answered or added on to your question, yes, to the Madrasa Institute, to the people, to the person who is studying there.
Yes.
To well-being, to building, to buy the carpet, to take care of the fans on the parking lot. So the question that whoever asked is, can we give zakat money to ISB fundraiser? No. So as Muslims, we have to give money beyond zakat. That's a concept we have to remember. We always should be giving zakat. When Prophet said, Allahumma ati munfaqan khalafa, Allah, the angels make dua, Allah, give that person more, or make things easy open the ways for the person who gives sadaqah. That's sadaqah. Prophet said, sadaqah, when you give sadaqah, Allah's ghadab and wrath and anger will move away when you give sadaqah. So the virtues is that sadaqah in general, give. Anfiqu fi sabilillah, and anfiqu mimma razaqnakum. So that's what it's saying, giving in general. And that's generosity. I'll add this point. Sheikh, sometimes people think when they're giving zakat, they are generous.
That's the right of the poor. And
there is no generosity. That's your farida. That's like you're praying salah. That's haqq. Generous person is when they give above and beyond. That's what we have to do. And that's what inshallah, we encourage everyone to come forward and do it next week, inshallah. Yes, sir.
On the fundraiser day, the form, it tells you, you can give it a card or you can give it to the expensive.
Right.
It's have categories. So if you want to give it a card to you just check that box.
Very good.
So again, going back to the point, if you want to entrust your zakat to a party to dispose it on your behalf, okay, you have to do your homework that this party is going to dispose it on time and not hoard it or put it in a bank account to stay for another year or 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So I encourage people not to check that box. If you want to donating to the masjid, which you should do, because this is highly rewardable next week, but don't check the zakah box. Take care of your zakah on your own. Do your own duty. Do your own diligence, right? This is part of implanting that seed in a fertile land, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, the ayah that we talked about yesterday. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل.
So, someone's asking, so the ISB fundraiser, no, you cannot give zakat. Can you please explain again about how to calculate zakat on house debt? I mentioned that the house debt is for 1 year. So let's say if my monthly mortgage is, I have to pay $2,000. So for the whole year, it'll be $24,000. So from your savings, let's say if you have $50,000 savings, minus 24. So you have to calculate your money. I mean, your nisab would be $26,000, in which you give zakat on that $26,000. Does that make sense? The next question is, and this is something Dr. Ryan mentioned, I mentioned, and people get confused on this. It's a very, very simple concept. Someone said, what if you get more money while you have savings, you get another check, you get bonus, inheritance comes. You know, in the beginning, I only have 5,000, but now I got another 10,000, and a few months later, I got some more. Do I calculate every single month? No, don't complicate the matter. The moment you hit your nisab, 5,500, if you're below nisab, just stay quiet until, make more money, get more savings, and get to the nisab. Once you get to the nisab, you calculate. Every month, you get $3,000, $5,000 check. Your expenses are cut off, your savings goes $1,000, $1,000. Let's say a few weeks before, a month before Ramadan, inheritance, you receive $100,000. So you had 10,000 and now all of a sudden, right before your zakat date, you got $100,000 now. Yes, add that. Even though you had $100,000 only for 1 month, you give zakat on it. Yes. Because it's not about 100,000, it's on top of your nisab. Your nisab was 5,500. Anything that added up till next year that day, even if it's $100,000, you give zakat. If you're going to sit down and calculate every money, every paycheck that's coming, even in your example of the Tariq, the expenses of your rental property, whatever, your cash that you're getting, just add it to your, whatever your profit came out from your rental property, add it to your savings. At the end of the year, all of that, your savings, you take out zakat, one calculation. The rule of thumb is zakat is one calculation, not multiple calculations in a year. If you understand that, then this is very easy. SubhanAllah, I've been doing zakat workshop for about 12 years. Every year this question comes.
Yeah, of course.
Because that means people are actually doing it. Yeah. I know one of my relatives, actually every paycheck she sits down and she takes out zakat and I'm like, why are you doing this? Just wait till the end and do it. Yes?
You cannot change the niyyah. Niyyah is required for the same way that you have the salah. Niyyah is required for salah. Same way niyyah is required. So you cannot change your niyyah about something that you have given before and include it as part of the zakah.
The question, a very important question. Let me repeat the question the brother asked is, what if you gave someone some money when they were in need as a sadaqah, as just to help them out, but there was no intention of zakat? Later on, you calculate it, I'm like, I had to give $500. Oh, that person I gave them, that's my 500 gone, I'm done.
Yes.
No, you have to, when you are giving, you have to calculate. That's why it's tamliq important. You need to know what you're doing. You cannot just do something. I also want to add that when you are husband, wife, right? Sometimes husbands have the money, and there are also times the wife have more money, right? But if you're giving zakat on behalf of your spouse, address that issue, right? You need to let her know. You cannot just say that, I'm giving the money out. Then she's like, I have to take out zakat from my jewelry. It's like, don't worry, I'll already taken care of. No, you have to make sure that you inform because it's that person's money, who's an adult that you are giving the money on behalf. So therefore, you cannot give someone else's zakat without knowing them. That's what I'm trying to say.
Another question that is remotely related, but people ask all the time, can you forgive a debt as part of a zakah? So suppose, for example, someone is indebted to you, like $1,000, for example, faqir. Can you say to him, okay, I forgive you for that debt and count that as part of the zakah that you want to pay for that year, or subtract it? The Jumhur of the Fuqaha say no. You cannot count that as...
Because you should have done it when you were giving the money.
Yes.
You gave him with the niyyah of helping or loaning, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can't. The question is, can the zakat be given to a sayyid, the family of the Prophet ﷺ, right? So it's a very clear hadith. Prophet ﷺ said, me and my family does not take zakat, we take a gift, hadiyah. Now, I also want to mention this, especially in the subcontinent, right? India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Every fourth person name is Sayyid. Is that correct? Is that correct? Right. So that is out of love. So what here is saying is the Sayyid referring to the one who has lineage of the Prophet ﷺ. And Prophet ﷺ lineage did not go through his sons because his son passed away at a very infancy. Through his daughter. From his daughters, it was Fatima radiallahu anha. Right? So someone who has a lineage, and it's true, they are, I mean, don't get me wrong, they are true Sayyids throughout the world. SubhanAllah. Throughout the world. It's not exclusive to the Arabs. Throughout the world, there are true Sayyids, and they have lineage. And if it is the case, then they cannot get zakat. But if someone, SubhanAllah, if there is a Sayyid family, if it's someone who are the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ, they're in that difficult stages, just because you're not giving zakat, you don't leave them hanging like that. Please have some aql. Find ways to help that family. Not through your zakat, through your other money, inshallah. Sayyid family who trace their lineage to the Prophet ﷺ, can we give zakat to them? I just answered that. No, you cannot, if you know that. Does zakat need to be paid on settlement money, for example, from an accident? No, of course not. Settlement money, you have to pay fees and anything else. No, who are you giving the money to? The lawyer? Or to the other party that's suing you? No, you cannot give them your zakat money. Zakat money is an honorable money that goes in only in the hands of a Muslim needy person.
Or maybe the question is about settlement money that you received. Of course, it's all...
Does zakat money need to be paid on settlement money, for example, from an accident? Yeah. If you switch it the other way around, if a person got sued and they have to now pay money and they have nothing, can you give me zakat money? Yes. I mean, it's not about for settlement or anything. He's in need now.
Or if he's the recipient of the settlement money. So you got in an accident and you get like a settlement and you got paid like $100,000, for example. Of course, this is revenue.
Yeah.
So if it stays in your ownership.
1 year. Yeah. So if you got money from the settlement, but the question doesn't specify, but thank you for all the scenarios of settlement. If you got the big money from settlement, you wait and you have to pay zakat. If you are thinking that you have to pay money for someone else's settlement, you cannot give zakat. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, mashallah. There are more people online than in person. May Allah SWT accept everyone, and jazakumullah for the technology. Zakat is very, very important, and it's very sad that we have few people, even though there are more online, 50, 60 people in here. This is something that we have to learn about these ahkam of zakat on a regular basis, and encourage people to come, inshallah. If not, we only focus on things. I'm going to say it. I have the opportunity, I have the mic, I'm going to say it. Last night, there were about 2,000-3,000 people, all night, in an event. SubhanAllah. Good or bad, I'm not going to say too much comment. But in a lesson like this, such important part of our deen, and sad to say, majority, especially with zakat, majority of people don't know about it. Just sad. They just give, they don't give, they just sleep with it. SubhanAllah. In Harvard University, the University of Finance or Business, they wrote down something very profound. They have a statement, a different statement. They said, the Islamic concept of zakat, if that's to be distributed by all the Muslims, there will be no poverty in the world. Yeah. SubhanAllah. The kuffar have yaqeen on this. If every Muslim discharge their zakat, there will be no poverty. I mean, of course, they don't understand the full concept of zakat. We didn't go in the details of mu'allafatul qulub, but they are saying to everyone, anyone who is needy, if Muslim takes out their zakat, there will be no poverty in this world. SubhanAllah. This is how beautiful the deen of Islam is, the concept of zakat for the poor. We are living in the world where rich become richer and richer every year and poor getting poorer and poorer. Disparity increases. Zakat closes that disparity. Get to know. Give it to them. Not one time, every year. You can also give them. You can also give them. Before you know, they are not in their bottom sector of the society. Rather, they are just getting up. And you will have barakah. You will not become poor. Wallahi, the person who gives zakat every year will never become poor. Not just from an Islamic spiritual concept. Theoretically, they will never become poor. If you're giving $2,500 in zakat, that means you have $100,000. You're not going to get poor. It's a very beautiful system. Of course, it's not designed by any scientist. It's designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to understand this and bring in the understanding of this in this ummah, that they should learn the concept of zakat and then teach it to our children, and it can continue inshallah. Shaykh, any last final words? تفضل دعاء.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت
آمين.
وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت اللهم تقبل صيامنا وقيامنا وتلاوتنا وزكاتنا وصدقاتنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم اجعل هذا الشهر الفضيل شهرا مباركا علينا وعلى عائلاتنا وعلى أمة الإسلام جمعاء برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك
Jazakumullah khair everyone. Jazakallah for brothers who have made the online question answers possible. Just want to remind